How's it going, YouTube? Gonna do a little bit different video today. I'm actually gonna do not a review video, but more of like a good Christmas buy or good present for like a birthday or an anniversary, or for Christmas if it is going to be Christmas for you. And that is the Deeper Sonar fish finder. I've used this unit for quite a few years. I use it still pretty much every time I go fishing, especially for like the big lakes. I love it. Worth every penny. I'm going to kind of go through some of the steps of connecting it to your unit or to your phone or to your tablet, and then also go through a little bit of like some of the settings and whatnot. I'm going to probably do like a side-by-side of the actual what the phone is seeing, as well as where it actually is when I cast it out, where it actually is into the water and whatnot. So you'll be able to see side-by-sides and probably full screen images of that. So stick around. Hope you enjoy the video. All right, so the first thing that you need to do is connect your Deeper to your phone. Now, in order to show this, I'm also going to do the screen recording on my phone so you can actually see what I'm doing, so that way you don't have to worry about sun glare and maybe the screen's not showing or whatnot. That way everything's going to just be easier. All right, the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to log into the Deeper app. You're going to have to download the Fish Deeper app from either the Play Store or from the Apple Store. I use Android for this, so I'm more familiar with that. A little bit of a disclaimer: the Deeper, from the past experience, has not been the best connectivity using it with iOS devices, so do just keep that in mind if you do have an iOS device, whether it be an iPad or a phone or something like that. You may lose connectivity every now and again, or if you cast too far, it may just actually not work. I have not had any of those problems with Android, so if you're on Android, you should be pretty good. All right, so on the phone, it is going to say that no Deeper is connected. What you have to do is first put it into the water so that way it can actually turn on. So how this works is that there's two little diodes, little sensors on the bottom of the unit. When it touches water, it creates a actual connection with the device to turn it on. Also turns on Wi-Fi, so that way it can actually connect to your phone. Now, you just want to leave it in the water while you're going through and connecting a device. The Deeper unit does create its own Wi-Fi hotspot, so you will... No, we're not connecting to that. I want to connect to this. Perfect. And it's going to ask you for permissions and whatnot. So for this initial setting, it's going to ask you, are we doing a new standard scan, a new ice fishing scan, new boat scan, new onshore scan? We are just going to do a new standard scan just to show you. Now what this is doing is it's actually showing you my location on the lake where the Deeper unit is. And you can change this obviously just by pulling out this little bar from the right side, and then it's actually going to give you the definition and everything on the side here. Now if you notice, for me it's showing 1.7 meters. I am in the United States. Unfortunately, I use the imperial system, not the metric system. So I'm actually going to come in here and actually change a couple settings because I had to re-log into this. So, which is also a perfect time to show you everything. So we have different modes here for everything. So we have the fishing mode, which is going to give you standard, ice fishing, boat, and all that. You have raw and basic. I like the raw because the raw gives you a wider field of view. The basic is the 10-degree cone going straight down, whereas the raw is the 60-degree cone going around, so it shows you more vertical flasher. All the vertical flasher is, and I'll show you that in a minute there, will show you on the very right-hand side an actual flasher like you would with ice fishing. Sensitivity, don't change that. I like keeping that at 50%. Show fish icons, I usually have that, and I have that onto the large size. And I also like showing where the fish depth is as well. Fish alarm, that's up to you if you want to use that. I usually do the daylight time. It just makes it a little bit easier for me as well to see. And then we're going to go into the settings here, into preferences, and then like I said, for me, I am the imperial system, so I go with Fahrenheit and feet rather than meters and whatnot. So perfect. This is showing right beneath me is 5.6 feet. And this is the actual view that we're going to see here. I'm just going to go completely all the way. Now what we're looking at here on the top of the screen, we have the time. The top percentage is your phone percentage. The bottom percentage is the Deeper Sonar percentage. So as you can see, my phone is at 62%. The Deeper unit is at 98%. The little Deeper object is showing a standard scan. Surface temperature is 73 degrees. Now that's going to be important wherever you're fishing, because if you are just trying to do like trout fishing, 73 degrees obviously is not going to be really good for trout. And then it's going to show you underneath that as well, we are at 5.5 feet. And then again, you can change the beam here and whatnot, so you can go from raw to basic. Again, I don't like the basic because it does show you, well, it shows you basics, which I don't like that. I like actually seeing if there's any little particles or anything like that. I like seeing the bottom displacement, rocks and whatnot. And it just shows you a little bit better system. Okay, so this is perfect that I pulled it up. Where we have the vertical flasher, right? It's the third one down with the little icon next to it, the little. So on the very right hand side of the screen, that is the vertical flasher. So that is showing directly beneath the unit itself. So if you see any other disturbances, any little flashes in there, that is either going to signify fish or debris or something like that. And as you can see at that like 3.3 feet, a little bit lower than that, it was showing you that there was a flash. So it was probably like a sunfish or something was coming out from the dock that I'm fishing on currently. And you can also you can change the beam angle from the 55 degree to 15 degree. Personally, again, I like the 55 degree because it gives me the wider view of what's relatively around that area, especially if I'm on a float tube or something. I like being able to see everything around me, because if I'm going to be on a float tube or a kayak and I come through fish, yes, they could be on my left, on my right, they could be in front of me, whatever. At least I know I'm around fish, whereas the 15 degree is directly beneath you. So this would be more if you were like ice fishing, or if you were on a boat or a kayak and you were actually docked in a spot, if you were actually anchored, that would be better for you. I, again, prefer the 55 degree beam angle. Personal preferences. The fish alarm, all that does is just, it bings every time you hear a fish, or every time the unit sees a fish, so that is up to you if you wish to keep that on or not. I don't personally like that. Night fishing, so I'm going to come back to the unit here. Now this is not what the unit looks like when it comes out of the box. When you buy the unit itself, it is going to be all black. Well, if you get the Deeper Pro Plus like I have here. If you buy any of the newer models, they're going to have different colors, whether it be white or like military green or something like that. This is the orange cap. So the orange cap allows for night mode, for night fishing. So that way, if you're fishing at night, you can actually throw it out, turn on night mode, and then the unit itself will flash and you'll be able to see the light through the, because that's transparent orange. So you'd actually be able to see it. So why is this beneficial? Why is this necessary for if you're bank fishing, kayak fishing, float tube fishing, whatever? Because one, you can actually cast this thing out. Now, for the rod of choice to throw this thing out with, you don't need a catfish rod with 65-pound braid. I just prefer doing that so that way I don't have to sacrifice another rod. If you have any other kind of medium heavy or heavy action spinning rod or bait casting gear, so if you have bait casting gear and say you have a jig rod, a flipping rod, a frog rod, that'll do just fine. Or if you have a 7'3", 7'4", 7'6", medium heavy or heavy, that should work just fine for you. All right. So as we can see, I'm going to come back to the unit here. I'm probably going to try to do like a split screen here. We have a couple fish at the very bottom. So we are dealing with 6.4 feet out there. And honestly, that's like the average depth for Kiwanis Lake. Not too deep. Surface temperature is 70 degrees. And if I remember how the system works, it drops what? 3 degrees every 10 feet or something like that. So the fact that we're not even hitting that 6-foot mark or the 10-foot mark probably means that the water temperature is still going to be between 68 and 70 degrees even at the bottom. which is showing that the small little fish there, it probably is just going to be sunfish or small trout. All right, let me actually put my phone down so I can see what I'm doing. It's probably going to be hard for you to see as well, but all you got to do is just slowly reel this in, right? I'm just slowly reeling this in, and we're seeing the depth changing and whatnot. Now, if you get like the 0.1 to 0.2 or something like that, I really wouldn't be concerned about that much of a depth change, because that probably is just the unit being reeled in. And it's just like, if you reel it a little bit faster, it's going to have, as you can see, I reeled it just a little bit faster and the screen kind of stuttered for a second. 6 foot, 6 foot. Now, if you are fishing Kiwanis, this should be a good reference of what's underneath the lake here. Nothing. If you're fish this lake and you kind of wonder what the structure of everything is underneath here, honestly, this is just a giant sand flat. I've taken my kayak out here, and the deepest point that I was able to find was 9 feet. And I actually know where that little channel is, where that runs through. But yeah, honestly, 9 foot is the deepest spot. All right, so let's reel this in. And then, as you can see on the screen, it says too shallow. So the deeper unit needs to be in deeper than 3 feet of water in order for it to actually register and give you a signal back to your phone. And again, the unit sends a Wi-Fi signal, so this is also a Wi-Fi hotspot to send to your phone to actually give it the information. Now, I like the change that Deeper did many years ago of going from Bluetooth to Wi-Fi, because Bluetooth is a very, very poor connection at distance, and Bluetooth is also a very poor connection in general. And these are the little nodes that I was talking about, where when these touch water, it turns the unit on, and then it also gives you the signal back to your phone. These units don't, but these units just turn it on. And then the sonar itself is coming from the entire bottom of the unit here. So make sure you don't let this thing hit the ground too much, because this is sonar, it is sensitive. Now, as you can see here, there's a couple things I want to talk to you about. We have 3 different screw-in points that you can use for the unit, as well as we have this little sign that says waterproof right here. So even though the lines don't have to match up, say if it's over here, as long as you have this thing as tightly tightened as you can, like tight, as much as you can tighten it, the unit is going to be waterproof. However, this is just, if you're like me in OCD, this is just going to be aesthetically like, oh, okay, it's waterproof now. So again, we have 3 different attachment points here, and I am on the kind of the 45-degree one here. So if you put it straight from the top, this is going to be for your kayak or your ice fishing attachment. So Deeper sells a kayak unit where it'll actually, you screw it or you mount it to the side of your kayak, and then it has a screw in from the top. That way the unit will sit perfectly up and down like this while you're on your kayak, and you don't have to worry about like adding an attachment or a rope or something like that and have it drag behind you. Personally, I prefer this mode for basically everything else that's not vertical fishing. This is supposed to be your casting and reeling if you're fishing from the bank or from a pier or something like that. Or if you're going to be sitting in one spot, they recommend that this is the attachment point that you use for pretty much everything else. I honestly I use this one for about everything, because it doesn't displace it too much in the water, and if I do need to cast, I can actually cast it out. Or if, like in this situation, if I'm just going to leave it sit like this, it doesn't cause any extra like tip or lean to the unit. So that's just my personal attachment point. Now, the unit does not come with a split ring. So if you're going to use this on any of your rods, I do recommend you put a split ring onto any of these clips, or you use like a swivel or something like that, because these edges are a little bit tough. They are a little bit sharp, so I don't want my own line to be cut. And I'd recommend you do the same thing too. I just prefer a split ring because it's just very easy to add on to the unit, as well as it's very easy to just tie your knot onto that. And any knot will work just fine. I use the San Diego Jam for all of my knots, especially for the heavier braids and the heavier monos and fluoros, but you can choose any knot that you want for this. All right, again, why is this really nice for when you're bank fishing? Well, again, you can throw it out. And I'm gonna put it in front of me here so I can see what I'm doing, giving it a moment to connect. Now, earlier when I said iOS units have kind of an issue with the connectivity for this, what I noticed with my iPhone when I try to use the app with this is the connectivity for iOS, it just wasn't as reliable as for Android. Now, the software could have changed since then, either on the iOS side or from the Deeper side to be more compatible. But I do remember reading when I bought this particular unit that Android was more compatible with these devices. iOS was not too compatible, so do just keep that in mind if you have an iOS device, that it may lose signal once in a while, where it might actually show you, instead of where it says standard scan, it may actually say too deep or too shallow or not connected altogether. Now, what I'm going to do towards the, either like towards the middle or the end of this, I am going to go and show an older recording that I have of using the Deeper, where it actually shows fish on it, so that way you can actually see in a better depth. Just here, this is just really easy for me to do. There we go, now it's updated properly. But yeah, like I was saying, I'm gonna go in and I'm actually gonna show you a prior recording that I have of Willow Springs, where it shows you actual depth, actual contour changes, and actual fish. Because obviously for here, this is pretty boring watching this, and I don't blame you. And that also explains why I'm not catching anything, because there are no fish here. Which, just for a silly point here, when I first got the unit, I went to a couple different lakes and I didn't see any fish on any of them, and I thought the unit was actually broken. Up until I went to Saguaro for the first time with it, and then the unit just completely exploded with fish, and then I thought it was broken again. Like, well, okay, now there's like a million billion fish, but I'm not catching anything. And you know what? That's not the Deeper's fault. That is either your fault or the lake's fault that you're not catching anything. Oh, bad, too sad, get over it. If you can't catch fish, you're a horrible fisherman. I'm just kidding, but am I? Now, obviously, some of the benefits for using this, if you are a bank angler, or from a pier, from a dock, from a kayak, from a float tube, some added benefits for this is that this is a portable castable unit. So what that means is that it has an internal rechargeable battery, so you don't have to worry about bringing a 9-volt, a 12-volt battery, a marine battery, or one of those made for float tube / kayak batteries with you when you're on your trip. Just make sure that this thing is charged before you leave. Secondly, very portable. You can cast this. If I wanted to, I could tie it to just the dock here and leave it sit if I was actually in deep enough water. So if you're in the Phoenix area, right, when you go to Saguaro or Canyon and you fish off one of the docks there, you can just easily tie this up and just let it sit right beneath you and see if there's actually any activity beneath you, or if there's absolutely nothing. If you're in a float tube or a kayak, this is very, very useful, because you don't have to worry about bringing extra weight of a battery with you. Literally just tie a little rope or a small like bungee cord or something like that to this, attach it to your kayak or your float tube or any other like personal flotation device kind of thing. Not an actual life vest. Please don't attach it to your life vest, because that's going to defeat the purpose. But any sort of like personal fishing device like that. Again, a float tube, a little pontoon, float tube style, a kayak, a canoe. This is perfect for that, because again, you're not adding extra weight from another battery. And this unit is extremely small. I can keep this in my backpack, right? It fits in the palm of my hand. I have big hands though, but this fits in the palm of my hand. This is extremely small. And there's no transducer mount or anything for it. The whole thing is condensed into the one unit, which I think is absolutely fantastic. Another benefit for this is it is a depth finder. So the few times that I've taken this to Lake Pleasant, rather than helping me find where the fish were, I use this to help me just find the depth that I wanted to fish at. So for that particular time, I was told fish were no deeper than 40 feet of water and no shallower than 20. So if you found water that was 40, 50 feet deep, most of the fish would be between 20 and 30 feet, which when you're fly fishing for stripers, it's very, very helpful to know exactly where you're fishing and where the fish are. And the depth changes and the contour and everything like that. Didn't catch too many stripers. I think I got 3 that day, but it was a lot more than anyone else that was even like chovy fishing, so I was happy for that. Now, I will say the only downsides for this is do not use this as a replacement for an actual transducer mount for an actual fish finder. You can't really put waypoints onto this. You can, but it would be on the GPS side of this rather than the actual like where you are kind of thing. I guess that's the same thing with the transducer too, but the battery on this is going to go a lot quicker than your actual transducer mount because the transducer is pulling from the boat battery, or if you have 2 batteries, it's pulling from its own separate battery, which is going to give you many hours. Rather, this unit is going to give you a few hours. I think the longest I've had this last is about 4 hours. With just continual usage. However, like I said, I use this a lot as a depth finder and a fish finder. So if I'm looking for a specific depth, hey, fishy. All right, so when you're reading this, just like a normal unit, obviously we have that little jump, that little disturbance. Probably a smaller fish or a crawdad or something, or some of the structure that has been placed into the lake. But as you can see, that fish is hardcore just chilling on that structure, which is good because if I wanted to, I could actually just cast right back out there to try to catch the fish. But I'm recording a video, so it is what it is. And I forget what I was saying. All right, so all I've done is just change the mode here. So this is going to show you a GPS / fish finding side by side. So again, cast the unit out, and it should actually show you. It looks like it's just showing the GPS of my phone rather than the unit itself, which is fine. An older version of this would actually show you where the unit was in relation to you. I really don't use the GPS too much, honestly. I just kind of figure out where I am, looking at my surroundings, and go from there. Now, what we're seeing on the screen, all that disturbance and everything, compared to where I cast, that's right where the bubbler is. So all of what we're seeing is the bubble displacements from that aerator, which is actually really cool that the bubbles are large enough to be detected by the unit. And I don't know if I said this earlier, when you first connect this to your phone, you are going to need Wi-Fi on. It recommends that you turn off data. So if you have an Android phone or tablet or an iOS phone or iPad kind of thing, I would recommend using either an older phone or an older tablet that doesn't have data connected to it, because it is going to tell you to turn off data, so that way you don't get misreadings of having text messages, data, notifications like Snapchat or emails or whatever coming in, because it can temporarily cut the service. It can temporarily turn off the connectivity when you're getting those notifications, because your phone is trying to get all the information from the unit. And then if you get like an email notification, well, that's a data notification. So it can temporarily just lose signal with the device. Again, I'm doing this on my phone because I can actually do the screen recording. I generally bring a tablet with me, an older Android tablet, so that way I'm not killing my phone battery, and it's also a larger screen so I can see a little bit easier what's actually happening, and it's got a stand so I can actually post that up so I can see what I'm doing a lot easier. I do recommend also getting some sort of, like, if you don't already have a phone charger, preferably something that's going to be 10,000 milliamp hours. That way it can charge both your phone and the device once. So like, you leave at the beginning of the day, your phone's charged, this is fully charged. You are going to have to charge the unit before your phone, but again, I still recommend having a portable charger so that way you can charge the unit back to 75, 100%, whatever you want. And then when your phone, if you're using that much, and then you can also charge your phone when that starts getting low as well. That way, if you do have an emergency, your phone still works. If you want to continue using the unit, you can use it for basically the entire day. All right, so for this recording, this is of Willow Springs. So as you can see, when I first turned the unit on, I was in 55 feet of water. I do not want that. I was in 55 feet of water, and shortly after was when I actually saw the first fish. And then as you can see, it's showing the different contours. I was going up a little ledge. I think I was actually going back into shore at that time. Right at 30 feet, there was a fish that was marked on the top of the ledge. And then this is what it's going to start looking like when you actually start seeing fish, right? In different contours. And it's going to show you the differences with the bottom, right? Some of those little like spaghetti noodle things and the other disturbances, those are rocks and vegetation. Whereas the hard blue line and the hard red and the hard orange is going to be all of your solid stuff, like your rocks, not mud, but actual like hard ground. And this is a good example right here of showing the different fish icons as well. We have small fish on the left, we have medium fish kind of in the middle, and then on the bottom we actually have some very large fish just chilling on the bottom of 45 feet of water. Now for those that aren't aware, Willow Springs is actually really deep. I'm getting 60 feet here at Willow Springs. Most fish are positioned at about the 34, 35 foot mark there, because on the right hand side it gives you all of the depths, so that way you can find suspending fish roughly 34, 35 feet down. And so on and so forth. So this was really handy too, because in these spots like I have in the middle here, it was not getting any, I was not catching any fish or getting any bites in that middle spot. And then once I started coming over this larger patch of fish was actually when I started getting more fish, more bites. Lastly, for the unit itself, I don't know if you can hear, but it is not clicking anymore. That means that the unit has actually turned off. So within 5 minutes, if the unit either dries out from the bottom here, or if it feels that it is no longer connected to the water, basically when the little nodes are no longer touching water, the unit will shut off by itself after 5 minutes. So that does run the battery a little bit, but other than that, you're absolutely fine. Now again, I have the Deeper Pro Plus series. This is a little bit older model. They have a couple of the versions that are out more recently in the last year. I don't know if they still sell the Pro Plus, but everything that I've said today is going to be still very current with the other models as well. Most of these models are going to range anything from, I believe, $270 was what I bought this one for, up to I think like $350. So they're not cheap, but they are cheaper than a transducer unit, in my opinion. Less maintenance as well. Much more compact, much more portable, because like I said, all I have to do is just put this back in my backpack when I'm done, and then I'm good to go. Thank you guys for watching the video. If you stuck around this long, I really appreciate it. If there's any questions or anything else that I maybe didn't explain, you can go ahead and put that in the comments down below, or you can actually go over to the Deeper Sonar website and look at their FAQs to see if they can answer their question better for you. Now, if you're looking to purchase this unit, it is available online or through Amazon, which is actually where I got my unit. I was in a bundle pack, and it was actually a little bit cheaper as well than getting it from the actual Deeper Sonar website. So pick and choose there what you want. If you are looking for this for either like a personal present for yourself or for a loved one, Christmas is just around the corner here, so if you do see this before Christmas, I can't guarantee you're going to get it before Christmas, so just be aware of that. But this is a perfect present for anyone that is a bank angler, a kayak fisherman, a float tube angler. Doesn't matter, the fish are taunting me. Again, this is a perfect present if you are a bank angler, kayak fisherman, a float tube angler, fly fishing, catfish, trout, bass, it doesn't matter. It's a sonar unit, it's a fish finder, it's a depth finder. It's gonna help you find areas of high percentage. It's gonna help you find where some of the fish are. It may help increase your catch to land ratio, honestly. Just saying. Now these units are a little bit on the expensive side, but it is what it is. It's a fish finder, it's a depth finder, so it is going to be a little bit more on the pricey side, but it was honestly worth every penny that I invested into it. And even, I think I've had this thing for like three years, something like that. It's been a while, and I still use it to this day. And it also helps me throw away water that is useless. If there's no fish, if there's no structure, and I can clearly see that, there's no point in fishing there. Or if you take this out to your lake and you're not seeing anything, move to a different spot, go to a different lake. It's just that simple. So thank you guys for watching. Like I said, if there's anything that I missed, go ahead and put that in the comments below if you have a question or something like that. If I can answer it, I will. Otherwise, again, just go over to the Deeper website and then look at the FAQs. Or if you do get this from Amazon, you can look at the questions and the FAQs there as well. I do think the one thing that I forgot to mention was how to connect this thing. After you connect it through Bluetooth, it's going to ask you for the password. Mine was 1234567 but on the package and for the description of your unit, it is going to tell you the actual connectivity steps to your phone or to your tablet, your iPad, whatever it may be. So again, thank you for sticking around watching the video. It means a lot to me. If you do want to get this thing, I highly recommend it. You're not going to regret any penny from this. Like I said, I use it every day. All right, I've rambled too much. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a good rest of the day.